Hi, my name's Charlie, and today I'm going to be showing you how to use SketchUp. Oh. Okay, so first I'm going to go over what all these tools are. So this select tool, basically this allows you to pretty much select whatever. So you can do a line or a face, or you can drag and select multiple things, or you can hold shift and click on multiple things. This erase tool, pretty straightforward. You can erase lines, but not faces with it. So the paint bucket tool, also pretty straightforward. You can use this picker tool to pick a color that's already in the model. And then you click the paint bucket tool and there's these different textures and stuff that you can choose to paint a face. So you'll probably be using this tool the most. It's basically just a straight line tool. And then there's also a scribble tool, which you probably will use infrequently. So there's the arc tool. I'll go over how to use that later. These two you don't really use much. So here's a rectangle. So there's a rectangle. So this is there's a rectangle tool, and there's also a circle and a polygon, where before you start doing it, you can do 7 sides if you want, or you can do like however many sides. And there's the push-pull tool, which you push and pull to extend faces. And then there's also the follow me, which is basically the push-pull tool, but a little different. You use it for more complicated stuff. This is a more advanced tool. You use it to like create solids and faces. The move, pretty straightforward. You kind of use it to move things. There's also the rotate and the resize or scale. So when you use those, you want to make sure you have everything you want to move, rotate, or rescale selected. So tape measure, just, like any tape measure, measures the distance between 2 points. There's this walk tool and a couple others. So these are basically when you're done. So when you're done with it, you can basically get a good look at it. It's like you can walk around it. So the orbit tool is this is how you use to position it. So orbit is rotating, and then there's the pan. But the nice thing about the orbit tool is when you're in it, if you hold down the shift key, it'll go into the pan. So you can save a whole lot of time that way, and without having to click back and forth all the time. And there's also a zoom. I prefer to zoom by using the trackpad and using 2 fingers to push in or pull out. Just like it's the least amount of having to click buttons, because that gets a little tedious. Okay, so first I'm going to start kind of by showing you how to like make a sort of house. So when you start with a rectangle, you can make it 2 ways. So you could do a line. You could just make lines around the edges, or you can use the rectangle tool. So I'll show you both ways. So the line, so you're really going to want to get into the habit of measuring out your lines, because just trying to drag to get it to the right length is going to take forever. It's so much faster. So let's say we want 20 feet. If you don't type in the apostrophe, it'll assume inches. So then you just can go around the edge. And you want to make sure if this blue, that's basically straight down. So you want to make sure if you're doing this, it's going along the green or the red, depending on which way you're going. So then when you have all 4 sides filled in, it'll be a face. Or you can use the rectangle tool and do 20 feet, 20 feet. And then that's the same thing. So it's really just whichever one you want to do. So then you use the push-pull tool. So click the face that you want to push on and push it up until it's, so again, I would recommend typing in the length that you want to do. So let's do 10 feet. And so now let's try adding a door. So when you want a door, you're probably going to want it in the middle. So let me show you how to do that. So if you want to get something right in the middle, you start with the midpoint, so that's directly in the middle. So then you're going to want to decide how wide your door is. So if I want my door to maybe be 2 feet wide, then you start with, basically you have to divide it in half, so 1 foot, and you start at the midpoint, and you go drag along the line, the bottom edge, and you go 1 foot. And then, so now you have 2 points and a midpoint. But you have to be careful because now the midpoint isn't the midpoint of the whole line, it's the midpoint of this little segment. So you're going to want to start at the end point that used to be the midpoint and go at the other side, that 1 foot. So now between that, and then just kind of go up, let's say 7 feet, which is definitely taller than a door would be, but. And then, so if you wanted to do a frame around it, you kind of just go 2 inches, kind of go up, make it level. And if you have a little mistake like that, don't stress about it. Just hit Command Z and try again. Okay. So can go over 2 inches up until, and see if you already made the first one, then you have guidelines for the second. So that makes it easy. So then you can use the push-pull tool to kind of bring this out a little bit so that, let's say 2 inches, so that now you have a frame. So obviously if you're making a door, you're going to want to do more than this, but I'll just show you how you can make a roof. So if you want angles, so what you can do is start with a line. So this is one way to use the move tool. It can kind of move faces. So you're going to start in the middle. You're going to want to you have to click the midpoint and want to go up blue. If you go over, it'll be offset, which you could do it if you want that, but if you don't, then you could do maybe 7 feet. So now you have a roof. So let's say you want a window and you want it like right around here in the middle. So you don't want to have just click it randomly because it'll look sloppy. So if you want to get a measurement in the middle of nowhere, you have to use kind of guidelines. So one thing, you're going to have to use guidelines a lot for various things. And you can always go back and erase lines later, but it'll make it a lot easier if you just use them. So I'm going to start with one here. So let's say I want this halfway down. So I see, how long is this? Okay, 10 inches. So I'll try to have the line go to the middle. So 5 feet. And so then if I want my window to be 3 feet by 3 feet, I can go over and then over 3 feet. And then once you're done, you just use your eraser and erase your guidelines. And then that's done. You have a window. So I think now I'll kind of go over more advanced functions of the tools. So the paint bucket. So with the paint bucket, you have various things you can use. So I would recommend doing this last because otherwise it kind of slows down the system. But they even have transparent ones. So let's go back to our window and we can see if we can get a transparent. Where are they? Okay. The water ones can be transparent. So if it has like this, it can be transparent. So let's say we want a water covering for a window. So you can use one of these transparent ones if it has this line. There's more somewhere, I just don't remember exactly where, but now it's transparent and you can see through it, but it's still a solid thing that you can do the other things with. And then there's lots of different ones. So you could do like tiles on the floors or brick siding or something. So you can really kind of play with that. And there's of course lots of solid colors to choose from. But again, I would advise doing that last. So the arc tool, the two ways you can make an arc, the two main ways you can make the arc. So there's, you can use the radius or diameter, because remember the radius is the distance from the outside of the circle to the middle, and the diameter is the outside to the outside, the other outside. So you can start with the radius. Let's say we want a 3-foot half circle. So you could start with a radius of, say, 1.5 feet. It's kind of small. So then you just get this tool. So this one is the one for the radius, the top one. So you start, you start at one end, go to the other, and then you can just kind of drag it around a circle. And then you can also just do a 90 degree or 150 or whatever you want. And then you can go finish it with a line. Or you can start with a diameter, say 3 feet, and then you use the 2-point arc, and then you kind of start at one end, go to the other, and then you kind of push this out into a bulge. So you want to make sure it hovers to the point where it says half circle, or else it'll be like that, unless you want that. It'll snap to it automatically, but if you hover a bit, it'll say half circle. So doing the circle is pretty much the same, circle and polygon. I would recommend starting with a diameter, or your radius, actually. It'll just make it easier to get the placement you want. So with that circle, we just start. So yeah, see, it's very simple. Same thing. It's the same thing to make the polygon, but you have to just click in the amount of size you want. So the move tool. So when you, so if you want to actually use the tool to move things, here I'll just get rid of this. So you can drag to select, or if you are moving your whole thing, you can do Command A. Or if you really wanted to, or if it's like you just want to move part of it, you can just like go through and hold the Shift key and click every face, but probably don't want to do that unless you have to. So then the move tool, you just click the move tool, then you can move it. So with the rotate tool, the problem with that is it kind of goes off of faces. So you see, if you do it, see how there's it needs a flat face to work off of. So if you can get somewhere where it needs to be blue and it needs to be completely flat, because if you go like this, you're going to end up with it, rotating like that. And you have to, you also have to have everything selected before you rotate it, or else it'll create weird geometric things. So you have to make sure it's flat. And if you have to, you can basically make, so if that didn't have a flat thing, we would just do that, and then you could do it based off of that line. So it's very simple. You just do that. You pull the line out some, then you just kind of rotate into the amount of degrees you want. And the rescale, you just do if you want to rescale the whole thing, you choose one of these. If you want to do just up and down or just side to side, you do one of those other ones. Then you just do that and you type in the dimensions you want to do. So if I want to do 0.5 scale, like I would do that. And so with this, one other thing I want to show you is the 3D warehouse. So you just click that button, and then it brings you to the 3D warehouse. So basically this is it's a catalog of different models that people have made. So you're just gonna, so if you want to put something in your model that's kind of too complicated for you to build or that you don't really want to build, then you can just find something in the model, in the thing, and you can search for whatever you want. There's lots of different choices. And the best part is if you want to, you can even put in your own stuff. So this is one that I made. So when you do it, you just click it. You click download. And then you just move it where you want it. And you can rescale it. So the nice thing about the 3D components is that they come in one piece. So if you want to edit it, click twice, and then you can edit parts within it. And then you just click out of it and your changes will be saved. And if you really need to, you can explode it. So basically that stops it from being one piece, and it'll make it, see if we do that, it'll be, now it's one thing, but you don't want to explode it unless you really need to, because then it'll be impossible to work with, to like rescale as a group or something. You'd have to reselect everything. So when you're done with your model, so you're going to want to save it. You'll want to be saving throughout. So when you save it to your 3D warehouse, you just select your thing, SketchUp, and then you can add folders or whatever, give it whatever name you want. Let's see. And then it does autosave, but you're going to want to periodically, especially after you do something difficult, you're going to want to save it just in case. And so when you're actually done with it and ready to send it, so you can export. So the PNG basically just downloads it as an image. It's basically like a screenshot. The STL is a file that you use for 3D printing. So you do that if you wanted to send it through to a 3D printer. But you're going to download, and then the SKP files is basically how you're going to want to like submit it to, if you're going to, like, for instance, turn it into an assignment or send it to someone, because that is the universal SketchUp thing. So anybody can open this file in SketchUp and see this model, and they can interact with this model too. So it doesn't really matter what version you do. So that's the basics of SketchUp. I hope you learned something. Thank you.